What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you so much for being with me today, where I talk about a method I make use of to manifest my desires literally overnight. Now, this method is nothing new or revolutionary, and it isn't my own. However, it is a method that I think a lot of people struggle with more than they expect to. So what I want to do today is I want to give you the things that I do to ensure that I do it correctly to manifest my desires overnight. And towards the end of the video, I'm going to give you some story time / examples of when I've done this and how it has manifested things quite literally overnight. Some of those include my driving practical, manifesting Katie back, manifesting large sums of money multiple times, and even a time when I did SATs unknowingly as a child and still got success. But I accidentally gave away what I was doing there, so I'm going to tell you now. That method is SATs, the state akin to sleep. Now, SATs is a term coined by Neville Goddard to essentially state you want to do your manifestation process. Most people will do visualizations, but I found that you can also do it with affirmations while in that state that is akin to sleep. So we have there are multiple different brainwave lengths and sort of sleep cycles and stuff, but for the purpose of simplicity, we have being awake, we have being asleep, and then we have kind of a no man's land in the middle where you're still awake enough to direct your focus, but you don't have all that crazy crap going on where your mind tells you that you're lying to yourself or it's running rampant going over the day's events or arguments that you've had in the past, but you're not quite asleep fully. But your subconscious mind is more receptive because your conscious mind has kind of taken a little bit of a sidestep. Still conscious enough to direct it, not fully conscious enough to be fully awake. In that no man's land, that's when we want to be doing our manifestation work as much as we can. Because what we can then do, given that your subconscious mind is more receptive in that moment, you are using the tiny little bit of conscious brain power that you have to show a story, and your subconscious mind, being as receptive as it can be while you're awake, is basically sat there with a quill, nice little feathered quill and ink going, yes, all of this, I love it, I'm taking this in. When I have done this and when I've actually genuinely got into that state akin to sleep and been consistent with my affirmations in that state, and I know when I've done this and when I haven't done this so well, I have manifested things literally overnight, more consistently than I haven't. But I did say there's something very important. I know when I've done it right compared to when I've just fallen asleep. What I mean by that is, and this is I think the problem that most people are having. So what I want to do is give you some ideas on how to overcome this problem. But most people, they go to sleep doing a visualization, or they go to bed doing a visualization or affirmations, and they'll do them right up until that no man's land. And then they'll stop. Not intentionally in most instances, but the brain power has kind of lessened and they haven't been trying to consciously keep it going. When I do that, I don't get the successes overnight. And I'm aware that I didn't get into that state akin to sleep and do my manifestation work. When I break through that barrier, which I can tell that I have because every single time that I found myself still affirming and also subconsciously thought, why am I still awake? Or how am I still awake? I feel out of it, but I'm still affirming. When I've done that, I've woken up the morning after with some form of success, or the day after there's been some form of success. I think, like I just mentioned, most people don't have the success with SATs because they don't break past that barrier. Not intentionally, but they just don't. And that's why people will say so much, I've been doing SATs and still no luck. Now, I'm not someone who raves about Neville Goddard and sort of sees him as a god. I see him as just a human that brought some incredible work to light. But Neville pretty much states that you can manifest anything within 3 days, and that's how you do it. There have been plenty of other people that also say the same thing, and my own experiences have shown that when I actually get into SATs, or in the state akin to sleep, and do it effectively, I do manifest things very, very fast. So the only variable that I can consider is that you're not quite breaking into that SATs place as much as maybe you think you are, which isn't a problem because I'm here with a fix. The first way that you can do SATs, or to get into that state akin to sleep a little bit more effectively, is a method to put yourself there. Now, this method isn't my own at all. I've seen this on numerous different channels across my time, but it's not really anything I suppose that someone could claim as their own. But it's essentially some method like counting sheep, or counting backwards from 100, or some form of monotonous counting. When you do monotonous counting and you stay conscious of it and stay actively doing it, your mind doesn't really have the wiggle room, especially if you're bringing it back to that monotonous counting when it does go off somewhere else. It doesn't really have the wiggle room to start thinking about that fight that you have or had or something like that, and then get the blood pumping and get your heart racing. It doesn't really have time to think about tomorrow's dinner or all of these other things because you're keeping focused on these sheep or numbers or whatever it is that you're doing. So by monotonous counting, you are essentially drowsing yourself. You're keeping your attention on something that is boring, therefore not stimulating yourself, but you're keeping your mind active, which is very important for SATs because you want to be able to control it. So you're essentially drowsing yourself more and more and more and more and more and more, but still keeping your conscious awareness as active as you can. And what that should do, and this has been my experiences, is let's say over here is the drowsiness if you're looking at the screen, and here is the conscious activity. Your drowsiness is going to be going down and down and down and down and down until you get very near the state akin to sleep. But your conscious activity should still be active due to the fact that you are staying conscious with counting the sheep or counting back from those numbers. Therefore, when the rest of your body finally shuts off and your conscious mind has kind of gone into that really drowsy state, in theory, and like I said, this has been my experiences, and I only talk about my experiences, you'll be able to kind of feel that breakthrough. You'll feel, when you are laying there and all of a sudden your body jolts, that kind of in and out feeling, that's what you will feel like physically, but your mind will still be counting sheep. If you can get to that point, then start consciously visualizing or consciously affirming your desire and be as aware and as consistent with it until you quite literally pass out. Not pass out in like a negative sense, but like fall asleep until you are gone. If you can get to that point, you've done SATs correctly. That's one of the methods that I have used in the past. I did this method when I manifested a text from someone using visualization. I've mentioned this in a video, but I can't remember which video it was. But essentially, I visualized, the visualization that I did was them writing out the text, sending it, and then the visual would then jump to me receiving their text. And the day after, it was literally like a spitting image of what I had visualized. And that is one of those times that I can quite literally say I got into that state akin to sleep. And this was one of the very first times I'd consciously done SATs. And then I got the success overnight. It was actually the morning I was sat there doing work. I remember doing it. I was sat there like at my laptop doing work. And then I looked at my phone and it was identical. So it was the morning. So less than 12 hours success, I would say. That's what I did. But let me tell you, I think I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is the second time recording it, so maybe I did and maybe I mentioned in the last one. But the other method that you can make use of to get into SATs is actually something that I did as a kid unknowingly, because I didn't know about manifestation or anything. It was just a weird thing that I liked to do. I liked to set an alarm for 3 o'clock in the morning because I liked the feeling of waking up, seeing that I had more time to sleep and then going back to sleep. It was just some weird little like enjoyment that I had where I was like, yeah, I don't have to get up for school yet. And then I'd go back to sleep, even though it probably would have just been better for me to just stay asleep. But I had some success with this because there was a girl that I liked in school. And I remember what I would do, not always, it wasn't like a weird thing or anything, but what I would do is sometimes I'd like to fall asleep to things that I enjoyed, whether it was like hanging out with my friends or joining the basketball team or things like that. I like to just show myself what it was while I was falling back to sleep. It was like my own little me time where I had the enjoyment of being able to go back to sleep and still have more time, and it was silent. The world was still. There was no cars outside. There was nothing. It was just me and my thoughts, and it was all like comfortable. It was just something that I liked. But I remember not visualizing really, it was more of like a sort of daydreamy / this is what my mind was playing out, of a girl that I liked in school. And I don't actually think this was an overnight one, but then again, I wasn't consciously manifesting. I was just having a fun time daydreaming. So make of that what you will. But I remember a couple of months later, actually, that I ended up being, I'm going to say it in goofy terms because we're kids, but girlfriend and boyfriend with this girl. I managed to get my like secondary school crush making use of this method, and I didn't even know SATs existed. I didn't know of manifestation. I didn't know of conscious creation. I didn't even know that SATs was a thing that existed. It was just something that I enjoyed. But this method is actually something that has been used by other people in history. I think it's either Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Edison or someone else. So it pretty much narrows it down to anybody that's ever existed ever. But there was one famous inventor who used to fall asleep in their chair, sat upright, with a heavy object in their hand. And as they're falling asleep, obviously they'll get a tight grip on it. And then once they eventually actually conk out, they drop the heavy object because their hand would loosen. That crash or that bang or whatever the object did to the floor would jolt them awake, and they would be awake and alert. But they wouldn't be fully consciously active, as in all of the cognitive functions of the brain wouldn't be back up and running because it was just a loud noise when they were in a deep sleep. But during this period of time, they would do all of their creative work and inventive work and anything that they needed to do. Because the subconscious mind is more in the front seat, and the subconscious mind is the creative power, the solution, the problem solver, this is when they found they did their best work. Very similar to me making use of SATs in the past when I was a kid. I would wake up due to the alarm, so I would still be in that drowsy state. And then I would visualize as I went to sleep, not really intentionally, it was more just an enjoyable thing that I would do. And then I got success. These inventors, they would have success. So one thing that you could try if you're finding that SATs isn't working out for you very well, and I would recommend taking this as a more of like a, if you really need to, because of course you don't want to be interrupting your sleep too much because, you know, that might have its own negative effects on you. But if you find that you really struggle to get into that state akin to sleep, set a timer on your phone. Wake up at 3 or more. Maybe if you've got one of those things where, I can't even remember what they're called, the things that monitor your sleep or whatever, see when you're in your deepest of sleep. Set an alarm for that time. Wake up, because at that point you'll be the most drowsy, in theory, and go back to sleep affirming or visualizing. And see how much of a difference it makes for you. Because the state akin to sleep is nothing special, really. It's a state that is almost sleep. Think of it like anxiety. Anxiety is a state. Happiness is a state. SATs is just a state. So it's not some sort of thing that you need to do a ritual for, but because it does have less conscious awareness, it is something that you need to be a little bit more vigilant and certain that you're going to do and make the necessary steps to do it. If you're someone that could just go to sleep visualizing or affirming and get into the state akin to and get into the state akin to sleep easily, great, that's amazing. But my experience is that a lot of people can't, myself included. If I just go to sleep affirming, I often fall asleep before I get to that no man's land. So I have to stay very aware. And this is why, generally speaking, the successes that I have had using SATs have come from things that I really, really wanted to ensure that I succeeded in. Because then I had that kind of drive. For example, my practical driving test. Even my instructor said that there was pretty much no chance that I was going to pass, but he said you might as well do it anyway because you've passed, you've paid for it, and the date had come up. Now, the reason why I wasn't going to pass was actually due to my previous instructor absolutely screwing me over and not teaching me things properly, more than my own inability to do so. But he was like, you can definitely tell that you are someone who has learned how to drive within a couple of months, because I had to go to him last minute because my other instructor, there was a whole bunch of legal problems essentially, and that's why they had to drop me as is it a client? Is that the term? Student. And then my other instructor, as soon as I came to him, he was like, yeah, everything they've taught you is complete bollocks. Forget it all. We're going to teach you how to drive within 2 months, essentially. And that day, he basically said to me, look, there's no way you're going to succeed, but do it. Not no way, but it's unlikely you're going to succeed, but do it anyway. And I was like, okay, cool. That night, I got into that state akin to sleep. I affirmed I've passed my driving test. My driving test was easier than I thought. It was so easy to pass my driving test and things like that. And the day after, against my expectations, and especially my driving instructor's expectations, I passed my driving test. Same thing with the large sum of money that I mentioned. I'd had a bit of a low month financially due to my fears of going full-time self-employed and kind of the implications of that. So I decided, look, I'm not having this again. Tonight, getting into SATs, I'm going to be doing my affirmations for money. The day after, I woke up with an £800 payment from a company that I hadn't worked with for over 6 or so months. Hadn't heard anything from them. Even with the payment, didn't come sorry, we didn't get back to you, here's the money. Nothing. Just an £800 PayPal payment. Just there. In the end, I had to message them saying, thanks for getting back to me with the money, because they said nothing. But that was a huge sum of money for me to just wake up to. Falling asleep, saying, I received so much money effortlessly. I have so many new and returning coaching clients graciously paying me for my services. I make X amount a month. Woke up the next morning with this massive sum of money. Manifesting Katie back. On the night before, I got into the state akin to sleep with a visualization. And then the day after, woke up with some missed calls. One of them was from Katie. We got back together. The high school sweetheart thing that you want to talk, that I mentioned earlier about, if you wanted to sort of use that as an example, wasn't proper SATs, as in intentional SATs, but as a kid, unknowingly made use of SATs and visualization to manifest my high school girlfriend. Plenty of examples. Most of them are money ones, because most of what I try to manifest is like large sums of money, but I do have a lot of instances that I could go over, which are money affirmations and stuff and SATs, where I've woken up the day after with large sums of money, or the day after has been an absolutely explosive day. In fact, yesterday was another one of them, because with the inspiration of this video, I wanted to sort of make use of SATs and try and do it. Yesterday, so the night before yesterday, went to sleep doing my typical money stuff, falling into the state akin to sleep, did some money stuff, and then yesterday was an incredible financial day. So it works for me amazingly, but only when I break past that barrier. And I think that's what a lot of you may be struggling with. So I recommend making use of one of these techniques. Count backwards from 100, count sheep, count something, do something monotonous, do the alphabet over and over and over again. Just something that keeps your attention, but is extremely monotonous, so that your mind doesn't go off into all these different things and you don't get stimulated by arguments that you may be having in your head or fears about something. Monotonous, let your mind get drowsy, keep the conscious activity awake so that you can, keep the sort of ability to direct your thoughts awake, but allow the rest of your conscious activity to shut down, and that should get you into the state akin to sleep. If you struggle with that, try the other method. Have an alarm that goes off, or maybe hang your hand off the edge of the bed with something heavy in it so when you fall asleep it drops. Whatever it is. Wake yourself up. Then when you're awake, go back to sleep doing your affirmations or your visualizations. This has worked for me overnight with pretty much every instance that I can think of where I can say, yes, I did SATs correctly, or within 24 hours. So I don't doubt that it could work for you if done correctly. So I really hope this video has helped. I know it's a little bit different, a little bit longer, a little bit of a different format, I suppose, kind of. But I wasn't really sure how to structure this one. But I really hope it's helped. If it has, drop me a like and a comment to let me know. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. And if you need any of my help on a one-to-one basis, if you want to overcome those fears, those anxieties, and just manifest from a calm and comfortable space instead of fear and lack, head over to the link tree that's down below in the description, and there you'll see the links to my website where I offer tons of coaching solutions to help you accomplish just that. If you don't want coaching from me, but you would like more from me, I do have a monthly membership that offers tons of free worksheets, free plans, free routines, exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else, and discounts on stuff. So go check that out if you're interested. And if you just want me to do it for you and be a helping hand on your shoulder while you do the work, I do have the assisting service, which is where I can manifest for you, and that is the top link in the description. So go ahead down there and let's go help you get your desires. Thank you so much for watching today, you lovely people, and I'll catch you soldiers in the next one. Bye-bye.